Stuart, I mean, when you used to go to Anfield, you knew the task in hand. When it comes to going there now, and for Liverpool, out of the League Cup, out of the FA Cup, 9th in the league, Real Madrid still to come in the Champions League, have Liverpool lost their fear factor?
I definitely think so. I think that's been gone for a while now, because you can score against Liverpool. That's been the biggest problem. You look now and you think, well, first off, for me, it was just the defensive frailties. You can score against them. Then there was question marks. The midfield haven't got legs anymore. That was the thing. Now, all of a sudden, you're questioning the front line. So right through all the thirds of the pitch, you question them. I definitely think the fear factor's gone now, certainly in my time. Liverpool was the only ground I never won at in my whole career. I think the sum total of what I got there was 2 draws. That was it. Because you're coming up against the Dalgliishs and people like that of this world. Magnificent teams. Nowadays, not the same.
You look at the decline of Liverpool over the season. I mean, Souness, before he disappeared into the ether, made the point about the midfield being a massive problem, because if you've lost the legs in the midfield, you've lost the extra bit of cover for the central defenders, and that's what's causing the impact upon the defenders. I always felt that the defenders were good enough in their own right, but notwithstanding that, he made the observation that was the primary problem behind Liverpool right now, the loss of legs in the midfield, and then the subsequent impact upon the overriding defending aspirations that they've got. But, I don't know what to make of. First of all, I have an innate amount of faith in Jurgen Klopp. Despite the fact I have a critical observation on some of the things he says and does, I'm a huge Klopp admirer. If I was owning a Premier League football club and I wanted that football club to be an image of what I wanted it to be in terms of aspirational and on the front foot and dynamic, Jurgen Klopp would be the manager I go to.
Really? Some Liverpool fans think you've got an agenda against
No.
him.
I'm a huge admirer of Jurgen Klopp. I don't think that everything comes out of his mouth is on the money, and I think we should be able to say that. And if you do say that, then people suggest you've got a motivation and you want to have a pop at him. But I think as a manager, that Liverpool side over the last 3 years, I've enjoyed watching that at times more than I've enjoyed watching Manchester City, because there's something dynamic about it. There's something more feral about Liverpool when you watch them play. But this season has been a surprise. They had a wobble when they defended the Premier League and they lost all their centre-backs and they were very poor for a period of time. But this is a sustained period now. I know you can look at the side and say, ultimately, they've got a lot of key players out. There's a lot of personnel that isn't operating at a level that one would have anticipated they would have done. But it is surprising to see Liverpool in this situation. But I think that they're a transfer window away, and it clearly isn't this one, from a regeneration. And if they can, as laughable as this may sound, if they can acquire people like Jude Bellingham, then they will regenerate quickly, because Klopp again will go again. I don't have any doubt in my mind. If there's any underlying belief that Liverpool fans should suddenly become slightly disenfranchised, and I'm the first one to go after a manager and say, it ain't what you've done, it's what you do next. Yeah. But I believe that Klopp will have the ability to be able to turn this around. But I do also think it's not good enough for him either. Back to Brighton. Brighton, you've got to give credit to Brighton, because Brighton are a side that are playing at the top of their game right now. But you would have anticipated Liverpool might have wanted to right the wrong a little bit more forcibly, given the fact that Klopp attributed the worst performance he's had in football management to the recent defeat to Brighton.
Well, the thing is, he mentions Jude Bellingham, Stuart. They're not going to get Jude Bellingham before 11 o'clock tomorrow night. That's for another day. It's the here and now. Andy Robertson saying, we've got worse. We've got worse. Who's in the bigger mire? It's Liverpool or Everton?
Jim, for me, it's chalk and cheese.
It's Everton,
Liverpool got a fan base that I think are behind the manager in the main, the vast majority. I think there's a little bit of tinkering and rebuilding, but it can be done comfortably. And I think they've got a top manager in Klopp. I've got to agree over there that if he'd become available, he'd get a lot of suitors, without a doubt.
Slightly.
Everton, on the other hand, the opportunity to go down and drop out of this league, where that would leave this football club. Everything's disunited there. I think if they do get Daichi, they've got a man that might unite everybody. But it's chalk and cheese.
What's the bigger shock to you, Stuart? Everton in a relegation battle, and they are, or Liverpool 9th and out of everything else except the Champions League?
I've got to say, I'd probably turn around and say Liverpool out of everything. Everton have been skirting around the bottom echelons of the league, but
it's not chalk and cheese.
Well, it is.
I think it is.
Who's in the worst predicament? Your question was who's in the worst predicament. Well, clearly Everton are. Who's the bigger surprise? Liverpool, because Everton, I felt that Lampard didn't have the tools. They didn't do much to improve themselves. In fact, they disadvantaged themselves. They sold Richarlison. How were Everton going to be better this year than they were last year? They didn't have enough nous in the dugout. They didn't have enough quality on the pitch, and they've got an owner that's away with the fairies. How was it going to be better? So there was no surprise to me that Everton are in this position. In fact, I suggested to you when Lampard took the job, there's a distinct possibility he'll get them relegated. He managed to avoid it by the skin of his teeth last year, and if he'd have stayed there, they'd have probably got relegated. So with that in mind, Everton are in a worse predicament, but the bigger surprise is, as Stuart said, Liverpool, because no one saw it coming. We all expected Liverpool to kick on. 4 trophies last year, in the mix for 4 trophies. Lost the Premier League by a point, the Champions League by 1 goal, and won the 2 cups. And you would expect that to kick on. And it hasn't. And it was all well and good for people like Souness to sit in the studio and go 3 months into the season, go, well, it's the midfield. But you never saw that at the beginning of the season either.
Well, exactly. Where do Liverpool finish up in the league?
Oh, do you know what? I think they'll still finish in the top 6.
Top 6?
Yeah.
I mean, looking at it, sure, I'm looking at it now.
I have faith in them.
They're going to have to go some to get in there. Certainly top 4 is going to be, I think, as it is,
done.
Arsenal, City, Newcastle, Man U.
Listen, you look at the league table now, they've got 1 game, 2 games in hand on others. If they win one of their games in hand, they go 6th anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I think chasing the top 4, no chance on what we're seeing at this moment in time. But certainly in the top 6, yes. And can you attract the likes of Bellingham and various other players if they know you're not playing Champions League? I don't know.
If Dyche comes in at Everton, are they saved from going down?
I think he'll give them a hell of a chance. The one thing, Jim, that he has got in his armoury as well, when you bring a manager like Dyche through the door, he knows what it's like to manage in the Championship and bring a team up again. So if worst case scenario happens and they do go down, I think they've got a great manager in place to bring them back again.
Yeah, they haven't brought him in for that, though.
No.
The bottom line is, I said to you, you asked me on Friday, what do you think they'll give him? They'll give him this and 2, and I think that's what's on offer, isn't it? That's the suggestion. He's going to get this in 2 years. But he's been brought in to be able to overturn. There's been a change at Wolverhampton Wanderers. There's been a change at Bournemouth. There's been a change at Southampton. Hopefully there's not going to be a change at West Ham because of my affinity towards David Moyes, but if he doesn't win more games than he's currently winning, there'll be a change there.
Yeah.
So with all that in mind, I think Sean has a good chance of overturning one of the 3 sides that are above him.
What do you think Mashiri's facial expression looked like when Bielsa said he felt like it would take 7 weeks to bring Everton's players up to speed with his high-intensity, high-pressing methods? Instead, he suggested that he and an 8-strong backroom staff would work below the senior squad for the next 4 months, ingraining his way of playing from under-21 level down and sorting the crisis club out before becoming manager in the summer.
Well, nonplussed and as gormless as it has been for the most of the decisions he's made, I'm surprised he didn't go for it. Given the reality of the decision-making process he's made so far, I'm surprised he didn't see that was a particularly good set of circumstances. What a ridiculous, outrageous suggestion.
What would you have said to him?
Why did you bother speaking to me? What have we? Yes, come in. Yes, I'm going to bring a temporary manager in that knows that ultimately he's only there. I'll get Ralph Rangnick. He's a village idiot. He'll come and do it for us. And you can sit down below and wait and see if you're going to build a side that's going to land in the Championship. It's just a ridiculous observation. But I'm surprised he's given his form. I'm surprised he didn't go for it. A eureka moment, jumped in the bath and all the water jumped out.
That's right. He's going to work in the basement on the under-21s. I'll see you at the end of the season. Good luck avoiding the drop.
Oh, by the way, it's 5 million.
Quite incredible, really. You can imagine working above him, and he's running the gonads off of the under-21 team, prepping them for next year.
But he's done him a favour, because I'm telling you, if he'd have said to him, yes, I'll take the first team, Mashiri would have put him in. And he's done him a favour, because he would have, in the same way that Leeds were on their last legs, a wonderful job he did for Leeds. 17 years outside the Premier League, whatever it was, got them back in there, wonderful side to watch. Would have got them relegated last year.
Yeah.
And he would have got Everton relegated because he wouldn't have had the time to impart his message. So with that in mind, actually, by design and by default, he's got himself in a situation where he's alighted upon the right person, which would be Sean Dyche. Sean Dyche is your best outcome for Everton.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.